little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. I let it shine, let it shine to show my love. I wanna tell
Good
you that
evening.
everywhere
I
I
love
go,
this song, This Little Light of
I'm
Mine. I'm
gonna
going to let it
let it
shine.
shine.
This one here is by Sam
Everywhere
Cooke. And of course, I don't have rights
let
to
it
the
shine.
music. So please allow this music to play,
Everywhere
or
I
this song to
go,
play.
I'm gonna
Like I said, I do
let it
not have
shine.
rights to it.
Let
But it
it
is a song that I sung
let it
to my
shine to
firstborn,
show my love.
Jayla Gillette. And it's a
I
song that I
want to tell
continue
you
to
that
It's a song that I continue to sing to my
I'm
younger
gonna
ones now.
let it shine. Even
And I'm sure you may be familiar with it, either from you singing it to your children, or perhaps someone singing it to you, or even perhaps singing it growing up in the church choir as a little child. But it is definitely something that we must continue to do to allow our light to continue to shine no matter what we are faced with in the world, no matter what we come across in our life, whatever situation it is, we still have to find some way to allow our light to shine. For those who don't know me, I am Janae Dunlap Myers, and I am coming to you today to speak to you about Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, which is this month in September. About 6 years ago, some of you may know, our lives changed during, ironically, Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. It was actually Labor Day, September 1st, on the actual Monday, 2014, when we found out that our daughter, who was then at the age of 6, ironically 6 years ago, age of 6, where she was diagnosed with a brain tumor. And that following Friday, 4 days later, we found out that it was an incurable, aggressive, anaplastic astrocytoma grade 3. And as you can imagine, our lives were like, what do we do now? But our little girl, no matter what was going on, her focus was trying to get to church on that Sunday because it was Grandparents' Day. And she had been preparing, like all the other kids in the church, to serenade, salute, honor her grandparents. And that's what she wanted to do. So though we had been in the hospital from Monday to Friday, when we left the hospital Friday, she said, "Are we going to church Sunday?" And Dale and I, my husband and I, we looked at each other and said, "Yes, we're going to church Sunday because that's what you want to do." And thus we did. So I want to talk to you about just some information, some key things that we've learned during that time. And of course, here we are 6 years later, and just going over some things because even though our Jayla is no longer with us physically here on earth, childhood cancer is and forever will be a part of our lives. And it's something that until you are actually literally touched by it, it's almost like it's abstract, like you know it exists and you know that people deal with it. But until it touches home, be it personally like it did for us, or even personally like it did for the rest of our family, my brother, my parents, my aunts, uncles, cousins, friends, until it touches you, it's for whatever reason, it doesn't become real. So I'm continuing to allow my light to shine in helping to continue to bring awareness to it, because kids are being affected by it each and every day. And one of the statistics I posted on my Facebook page for 2020 stated that I believe it was around, for kids under the age of 15, they are expecting or predicting that a little over 11,000 will be diagnosed with a childhood cancer. And out of that number, they are predicting that a little over, if I recall, a little over 1,600 will die. And that's very defeating. That's very alarming. And for a mother who has had a child to transition to having from childhood cancer, and I still have two younger kids, of course I'm alarmed. Of course I'm worried. Of course I am doing everything that I can to make sure my other kids do not have to walk the path that their older sister did. And I remember when we, once after Jayla transitioned, or even when she was diagnosed, a lot of friends were worried, started worrying, like, okay, well, tell me about these headaches, because my child was having headaches, and it's like, you start to think, like, you start to look at your own child and wonder, can this happen to me? Is this happening to me? Is my child going to be okay? And so we don't want to live in fear, because God did not create us to be creatures of fear. He created us to be his children. And as his children, we definitely have the power that he has. And it's funny because you think about that the saying that we teach the kids, what is it called? The little engine that could. I think I can, right? So it's funny how we can teach them that, but then when it's really time for us to act on that, we kind of forget, or we kind of become afraid, or we kind of, either act like, oh, that's just something we taught you. But no, that's real. That's real. Whatever you think you can do, you can. And whatever you think you can't, you can't. And that was evident with us along our journey. I remember vividly back on January 15th, no, I'm sorry, January 20th, 2015, where we thought Jayla was transitioning at that moment, like, well, this is what they were preparing us for. This is what they said was going to happen. But and my husband, we had a choice. Do we hold her and let her go and say it's okay and usher her out, or do we say no, this is not it? God said that you would live and not die. You are more than a conqueror. What do you do? And there isn't a right and a wrong answer. It's what answer has God placed in your heart, in your spirit. And so for us, we chose to fight. We chose to say, no, it's not going down like that. And we fought for about 3 or 4 hours with the pediatrician on the phone. And it's funny because it's not as simple as what I'm saying. It's not as black and white as that. It's a lot of gray all up in it. And it's a lot of God all up in it from the very beginning up until that point. So that's why it was easy for us to say no, because God had shown us things along the way to let us know that no, this is not the moment. This is not the time. And so that's why it was easy for us to say, no, not on our watch, not tonight. And it was so funny. Almost in a blink of an eye, she went from what I thought, what I saw was death on her face to life coming back in her. And so I mentioned that because the environment that we raise our kids in, it matters. And so when you teach kids that just like the little engine that could, you can do anything, truly believe that, because God has given us the power to not only heal our own bodies, but to be able to heal others. And so that's just something we have to keep in mind when we're hearing these statistics and when we're coming against different diseases and different disorders that we're being faced with, and different words that we're hearing from the doctor, tell us, we have to receive it because it's information, and with knowledge comes power, and you know what you're up against. But just because we are told something does not make it fact, does not make it our truth. You understand? And so that's something that we continue to carry with us from our journey with Jayla. And I recall vividly, well, one big thing, that has changed, which, some people may know, is that we went from having two kids to having one transition to heaven to now having a third child, our beloved Flower here. And I remember having to take her to the doctor, and all my kids deal with food allergies. And so when she was born, we kind of suspected that she may have them as well. And so she had something coming up on her eye that I really didn't know what it was. And so I'm not one to run to the doctor, for everything. I'd rather call all the doctors first and say, hey, let me send you a picture, before I come into your office. So I got word that I needed to go ahead and take her to the doctor. And of course, by the time we got there, the redness on her eye, had gone away, up under her eye had gone away. But by the time the doctor came in, and it wasn't our usual pediatrician that we see, by the time we left, she had pretty much diagnosed my child with asthma, diagnosed my child with an ear infection, diagnosed my child with something else. And I'm like, but she was fine. Like everything was fine except for this red spot, and the red spot is gone. So she was trying to give me prescriptions for all of that, right? And of course I denied it because I'm like, she's fine. Like she was fine. She just had this red. I'm like, show me the redness, the inflammation in the ear. Show me, And so, she explained that if she ends up needing a breathing treatment because I denied the medicine, that I would probably have to rush her in. And I was like, okay. So I still denied the medicine because again, she's fine. But of course, that night, she ended up waking up in the middle of the night, sweating, like sweat everywhere. She had a temperature, and I could tell she was having, a mild discomfort in breathing. And I'm like, but she was fine. And so what I did, because of the journey that we went on with Jayla, and because of my relationship with God, at that particular point, I was home alone with D2 and Flower. And it was in the middle of the night. And when you don't have anybody else to call, you know who you can call, right? So I said, okay, She was fine. Now all of a sudden, out the blue, we got all this stuff going on. That can't be but one thing, right? So I said, let me call who I know I need to call. And so I prayed. I got out my healing scriptures that we had Jayla listening to during her journey. And I called on Jayla because they said, well, two or more gathered, thus so is the Lord, right? And I just started speaking life over her, and I started declaring healing over her, and I just started just manifesting the healing over her. And it didn't take 3 to 4 hours like it did with Jayla on that time, but when we woke up the next morning, she was fine. No fever. I didn't have to give her a breathing treatment, which I denied the medicine, and I ended up. But my son has, breathing medicine, so I could have used his if I needed to. Which I know we're not supposed to do that, but in an emergency, you do what you got to do. But anyway, but I say all that to say we have the power within us. And we have to remember that, especially when it comes to our health, especially when it comes to things that, that we're up against. Like it doesn't change. What changes is us. It's either you believe or you don't. You can't believe, but then when it's time to put it to the test, you're like, well, I don't know. No. So here in Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, I want to make sure that parents know that there are more than there are different ways out there to treat your child. And when you are up against something as big of a fight as that, you want to be able to have all resources on deck to be able to help your child battle this disease. And so we used an herbalist acupuncturist by the name of Oscar Sierra. And I've shared a video on Facebook, but you can also check it out on my YouTube channel, Dialogue with Janae, where we talked about our journey with him. And he continues to help, cancer patients. But it's different ways, and with natural holistic medicine becoming more common, you definitely want to seek out as many resources as you can to be able to assist your child or even yourself. And so we also sought out a chiropractor as well. But when you are up against a battle that is trying to take your life, and especially your child's life, you definitely want to make sure that you are feeding their body well. We were already eating well because Jayla was born a preemie and she needed the best. And so we started off with the best, which was breast milk. And then once when it was time for her to eat, a friend of mine introduced us to organic food, but she was like, you got to make sure it's USDA certified organic, not just label organic. And I really didn't understand that at the time, but I was like, okay, USDA certified organic, let me look for that label. And so we made her food for her. One thing, our kids really don't eat candy. And it was funny because one time we took Jayla at the dentist at Dr. Lott's office over there. It doesn't matter where she is. Dr. Lott's office, and they were coming in to do a story, and we were being seen. So they asked, could we be seen? It was during Halloween. Could they interview us? And was it okay? And it was funny because they couldn't believe that we didn't participate, in Halloween with going trick or treating and all of that stuff. And I'm one of those. I don't like sick kids. When I was growing up with the dentist, I don't think I had any cavities. My parents did real good. I was afraid. I was very afraid. And so I'm like, I can't deal with my children having cavities and rotten teeth. You know, I can't deal with all that. So the best way not to deal with that, right, is not to eat candy. So anyway, so we stayed away from sugar, which I think was, in hindsight, very good for Jayla because if you know, um, cancer feeds on sugar. And so, you know, like the only time, you know, even at birthday parties, people thought I was kind of special. But, you know, she had food allergies, but eventually she could be able to eat certain things. But yeah, you know, we stayed away from that stuff. So we were already eating good. So got on our, when we geared up to fight cancer, you know, with our nutrition, uh, it wasn't that abstract for us because it was in alignment with what we were already eating, and especially with my son, you know, having multiple food allergies where he could only eat fruits and vegetables and beans and legumes, you know, and things like that. So we were already eating healthy, but definitely you want to make sure that you're feeding the body right with nutritious foods, staying away from certain types of foods, and you definitely also want to do supplements. We were already doing different types of supplements, but we even being working with Oscar Sierra, we received even more supplements because you want to be able to help the body to do what it needed to do. Because once we found out her cancer was incurable, Western medicine couldn't do anything for us. So it was now up to us and up to God. And when I say up to us doing things to help the body do what it was created to do. And so that meant seeking out alternative treatments. And so we learned growing up that what we eat, being physically active, that matters. But they don't necessarily tell you about the emotional health, the emotional state, how important that is. And that's one thing with kids. You definitely want to make sure that you are creating a positive environment for them. And because that turmoil that they are faced with, that negative energy, it feeds on the body and it causes the body not to be able to heal and do what it needs to do. And even with yourself, if you're trying to heal yourself over something or get over an illness, you too have to make sure that your mind is free. And what I mean by that is if you're holding on to something, some hurt from the past, if you're holding on to something that you yourself has done to someone and you haven't made it right, your body will not be able to rest and be free to do what it needs to do to heal you because of all of that emotional unrest. And so you definitely want to make sure that you pay attention to not only the foods you eat, not only being active, but also your emotional and mental health. And especially for our children, because they are so fragile. They soak up whatever it is we give them. And so if you tell them they're worthless, they will think that they're worthless. If you tell them they can do anything that they set their mind to it, they will believe it and think that they can do anything. I.e., my son, who researches every day how to make things invisible, how to do telekinesis. Yes, on a whole nother level. But you have to you have to make their emotional health a priority just as you make their nutritional health a priority as well. And being physically active. You know, now that we're in this pandemic, that's the main thing that's been taken away. And that's something that we can't afford to have taken away. Okay, so I'm not sure if y'all can see me, let me know because it's saying they're having trouble with the video. Sorry, we're having trouble playing this video. But if you can see me, somebody respond, please, and let me know in the chat that you can see me. But anyway, it's still recording. I see the light. But so anyway, we have to make sure that we're getting our kids outside. We have to make sure that we are allowing them to be free and get that physical activity in. Kids need to be outside at least 30 minutes every day. 60 minutes is great, ideal, but at least 30 minutes a day. Oh, thank you, Jasmine, my classmate from 94. Okay, excuse me. But so our kids, they need to be outside. And so that's very important because they have all that energy. They need to run it off. The sun, vitamin D. One thing that we did on our journey that the herbalist acupuncturist had us do is early in the morning, take Jayla outside, like 6 o'clock in the morning, and allow her to breathe that fresh, crisp air. And I'm sure that this will help with people who are asthmatic as well. So being outside helps in a bunch of different ways. So don't downplay it. Even if you and find ways to get outside and play with them because we're getting older as parents. We are. We're getting older, but that doesn't mean we have to become old. I remember reading about this lady, 82 years old, running a marathon. I read that when I was in high school. I said, that's going to be me. Yes, it is. Because I'm like, I believe that if anybody can do something, I can do it. It only takes one person to be able to do it, and that's why I'm big on the healing. Like I've heard the stories. Have I seen it? I haven't necessarily. Well, I saw it with my own eyes with my own daughter. The day that I told you. So I believe if it can happen to one person, at least one person, then clearly it can happen to me and for mine. And so anyway, so we definitely want to make sure that we paying attention to the foods, to the emotional health, to the atmosphere that we have our kids in, and making sure that we're getting them outside, allowing them to be physically active, allowing them to get some sun, the vitamin D, allowing them to breathe in the fresh, crisp air. And then the other thing that we have to be mindful of that I learned about with Jayla, as a preemie, we have to be mindful of the chemicals that we're putting on their bodies because the lotions, the soaps that we're lathering on them is filled with carcinogens. And so we can't wonder like, well, why are the kids, and people steadily getting cancer and the numbers are growing? Well, have you checked the foods lately? The ingredients in the foods? Have you checked your ingredients in the products that you're using? But what's baffling, it's not necessarily, well, what was baffling to me is that Jayla was a preemie when I learned that the products that we use were not safe. So therefore, she did not get exposed to harmful ingredients in our personal care products because I knew about it. So then we sit up here like, well, how did she get the cancer? Where did it come from? In my research, I learned that we as women, they thought that the toxins that we carry do not get transferred to the fetus because of the umbilical cord, but it does. Research is showing that the toxins are being passed down. So even though I didn't expose Jayla to harmful ingredients while she was here on earth, I exposed her to harmful ingredients while she was in my body because my body had the harmful ingredients because of what my mother used on me and because what my mother used on herself that I got from her. So it matters. It matters what we eat. It matters how active or inactive we are. It matters the environment that we live in, and it matters what we put on our skin. So definitely, I'm here. I'm here. I do believe that my life experiences. I do believe that my life experiences are. Oh, Kim, cousin Kim says she sees me. Thank you. I do believe that our life experience, I do believe that we are put on this earth to be a blessing to everybody. We are our brothers and sisters keepers. And so, though my Jayla is not here on earth, her light is continuing to shine. And I am allowing my light to continue to shine through her and with her, because I don't want another child to have to suffer what my Jayla went through. I don't want another family to have to suffer what we went through, what we are going through, and what we will forever go through. And so it doesn't end just because your child, a child goes to heaven. It doesn't end. It actually becomes a little worse, a lot worse, really. But there is hope, because the lessons we have learned, we can share it with others so that their journey can be made better, however better is. And so one thing I do want to share with you, because it is Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, a lot of people don't realize that the organizations that are out there, the cancer organizations that are out there, they don't really, the children are not the priority. Like, like, I hate to say they're almost like a second thought, but the children are not their number one priority. Case in point. And so whenever you're seeking to look for a charity to support, seek out organizations that are specifically designed to serve families dealing with a childhood cancer, such as Cure Childhood Cancer, such as Pediatric Brain Tumor Foundation. Those are two organizations that helped our family and continue even to this day to help our family, even with our Jayla in heaven. We need more organizations like that. And that is one reason why we have decided to form Jayla and Friends, which is an organization designed to help families that have been touched by prematurity and a pediatric brain tumor foundation. Because it's not too many organizations out there that once your child transitions, that they're there, that they're there to help you. And it's not that many organizations or resources available if you choose to seek out alternative treatments to try to help your child. It's not. And so I want to be the resource, because that's the only help we could get was alternative treatments. And so let me take it back. They offered us radiation, but it wasn't going to do anything. They didn't know if it could help. They did know it was going to harm her. They did know that. They did know that if by some chance, if she survived, she wouldn't be able to, if she was the one and only child to survive, that they did know that she wouldn't be able to have children and she would be forever dependent on us. They did know that. But they didn't know if it would prolong her life. They didn't know if it would help at all. So that wasn't an option for us, because we weren't interested in prolonging her life just to buy us more time here that we knew would harm her and make her worse than what she was. Like, the treatment would cause more harm than the cancer itself was doing. So we were like, no, thank you. So definitely reach out to organizations such as Cure, such as the Pediatric Brain Tumor Foundation, and such as Cares Cares. That's another one from a family that we met going through the journey. They were both the same age. So anyway, their family has started a foundation or an organization as well. So definitely, if you need any assistance, if you ever like, oh, dang, what's the name of that? I need to, I want to support an organization. Feel free to call me. I would definitely let you know, because it's good to help organizations that have actually helped and served a family, versus just collecting money and hoping that it's going to research or hoping that it's doing something. These organizations they have literally touched us, and they continue to touch us. And so with Jayla and Friends, I'm looking to launch that on Jayla's upcoming 13th birthday. If she was here on Earth, she would be 13 in December. So we are looking to launch then. And so with my beauty counter business, I used my business last September to help raise $500 for Cure Childhood Cancer, and I used it this past May, which is Brain Tumor Awareness Month. I used it to raise, I believe it was $800 for the Pediatric Brain Tumor Foundation. And so with every purchase from my beauty counter business now, a portion of the proceeds will go towards Jayla and Friends. And so I'm very excited because my business is doing good, and therefore we are raising money, for Jayla and Friends. So definitely, if you know of any uh, families that are dealing with prematurity or at risk of a premature birth, or families dealing with a pediatric brain tumor foundation, I'm sorry, brain tumor, or families, be it if the child is still here or if they are an eternal star like our Jayla, definitely reach out to us, because we do want to be a resource, not only financially, but also and equipping them and empowering them with information to help allow their babies and kids to thrive. And so, as I wrap up, I want to thank you for tuning in. I want to impress upon you the need and the importance of remembering childhood cancer, not just in September, and not just in May when we come around for the pediatric brain tumor awareness month, and not the other months where we have specific cancers for specific childhood cancers. But remember it. Remember the kids. Say an extra prayer for the families. Reach out to the families that you know who are dealing with it, whose child has transitioned, because the journey does not stop. It just becomes different. And so, and if you don't know what to do or how to help, I'm an open book. I believe there is no such thing as a crazy question. And I know some people are apprehensive about asking, certain things like, well, I don't know what to say, well, I don't know what to do, and I don't know what to do. And sometimes it's better not to say anything at all. It's just better to hug and embrace, and that says enough. But if you ever want to know, if you ever have a family like, hey, Janae, I got this family over here, I really want to help them, but I don't know how to. Do you have any suggestions? Or I was thinking about doing this. Do you think that'll be appropriate? Do you think that'll be okay? What you think? By all means, reach out. We are a resource. We want to be able to continue to serve and help. And that's it. So 6 years later, we are still standing. We are still breathing. We are not only surviving the worst and unimaginable thing ever, but we are thriving through it, because we recognize that though our Jayla does not walk with us physically, she walks with us in the spirit. She always has, and she always will. And so to families out there who are and who are walking the same walk I'm walking. You are not alone. We are not alone. We are in this together. My heart is with you, and I love you. And to everyone, until next time, please keep the dialogue going. Be well, be healthy, be inspired. Good night.